Now he told me to go left. There he is, look.
You better follow him. Did he say go around to the back?
I don't know what he said.
He said to be...
Oh, you got a nice sunrise there. That's beautiful. So, David, tell us where we are.
Yeah, so we're in a town called Bellus town, which is up in kind of the folds up a ridge, and it's East Meath. Just over that ridge there'd be the sea, and the particular land that we're on here had been given to my father-in-law's father in the Land Commission in 1945. So he came, my father-in-law, who's 84 now, came when he was 7, and so he gave us an acre here, and it's I feel very privileged. I didn't buy this site, but it's pretty remarkable. There's a town nearby us that's called Greenstown, and Greenstown would be the town of the sun, on Greenon, So I think the people who would have come here, the Neolithics, would have studied where the sun is going along the edge of this hill. On the top of this hill there would have been a 150-meter wooden henge, and in the burial tomb that we're going to see today, the skulls of women and children were in the entranceway, and it's oriented not towards the sun, not towards any astrological thing, but it's oriented right to the top of that hill. As I said, I was crepuscular, so here I am getting up. Dusk and dawn seems to be where I really like to get a lot of work done for a number of hours.
It's great that you guys are here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
One of the things I was hoping to get across today would be the idea that collections would be very much a part of how I work. Being able to find like with like.
Can I put it
Yeah,
there?
perfect. Yeah, putting like with like, compare, contrast, things that are similar, things that are different, things that suggest other things. My use of materials comes from the idea that something could perhaps prompt something. It could create lightning in a bottle.
When you say lightning in a bottle, and I hope this doesn't sort of take the magic out of it, but for those of us, what does that term
What does that
to
mean?
you?
Yeah. It's like you were thinking something and you add something else to it and suddenly everything changes.
So it's transforming?
Transforming what you know.
Okay.
So a good example of this, and I could do this in the studio, is I took a class with Chris Van Allsburg, who wrote Jumanji. Yeah. Now I can't seem to find my Jumanji book, but I have other books by him, and I wrote a children's book with him. And during that children's book writing, 15 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever it was, at the Renown School of Design, I kept saying, because 2 years before he'd written Jumanji, and it was a Caldecott award winner. It didn't even get the honor, it got the actual award. And I kept saying to him, and here's a guy in his late 30s wearing beautiful jumpers that his wife, who was a fashion designer, made. And I'm saying, Chris, how did you do that? Tell me. And I'm a precocious, pompous 19-year-old. And there I am saying, you must tell me how you wrote that. He's like, well, I like mysteries. I always read all these mysteries when I was a kid, and I didn't understand if I tried to figure it out before the end of the book. So I always liked mysteries. So when I wrote Jumanji, I imagined what would be a mystery for a kid. And I imagined a game without any rules. The rules weren't in the box. And I said, great, so what'd you do next? It's like, I didn't have anything. I waited till I had lightning in a bottle, lightning in a jar. So what do you mean? It's like, I had lots of ideas, and they were just floating around in my head. So one day, I was in the Renown School of Design's clipping file. This is before Google. Some guy made a job for himself, cutting out all the boats out of magazines and all the animals and putting them into filing cabinets, and you could actually check out a picture of a rhinoceros or a horse. So you had the best resources at the Renown School of Design. It's a premier renowned art school, and rightfully, it has a nature lab. You could look at a gorilla skull if you wanted to. So he goes in to the Renown School of Design clippings file. He's looking at a rhinoceros. And he was thinking at the time that one of the things he tries to bring to children was this idea of making the fog of the confusion in their minds become clear. You know, Maurice Sendak, I went to a lecture who wrote Where the Wild Things Are, and he said the same thing. Children don't need to be pandered to. They know they can be hungry. They know they can be lost in the woods. They know that death comes. They know they could end up with an evil stepmother. Things can happen. Life is like that. So Chris is saying kids need to be able to clear the fog of the dissonance in their mind. So, okay, so you're looking at animals and you're talking about dissonance. Tell me how you wrote Jumanji. So he says to me, and just to me, like, because I was the one bossing him around, telling him, you must tell me. Everybody else was busy drawing, trying, you know. So anyway, he tells me that he found the rhinoceros. It was beautiful, like these big stumpy legs running in the plains of Africa, boom, 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 like this. And he said, that has no dissonance. That has no fog. It doesn't make me confused. If I put that rhinoceros somewhere else in the plains, maybe in a kitchen, and suddenly what was not there was there. That is lightning in a bottle.
So you just keep your eye on us, yeah? Yeah.
Different people who know that down and that,
So, yeah, so one of the things about the Sunday market is the stuff that's on the ground. In the spirit of selection and the spirit of found objects, I find this very compelling. If I put this element beside something else, it could become something else. It could become inseparable. Might be interesting on a postcard. It could be part of something else. So when this is combined, and people don't actually notice it, this is the shite that people who sell shite think is so shite that they throw it on the ground, and I pick it up and I'm really happy with it. I know it sounds strange,
Exactly that.
but I just put that in there because I have a fire pit, a fire circle, I should call
Excuse
it.
me.
And I can't
What about
do
the spoon?
I don't like it.
Alan, don't tell him what to take.
I don't. I just think it's kind of.
You're meant to be
It's
like
just.
David Attenborough.
I just think it's not as aesthetical. There's this issue that I'm trying to find of aesthetics. This to me isn't for me. It's another artist. I'll bring it to somebody else, but maybe I won't. Like. Thank you. So Anne,
Is that okay with us filming?
yeah, Anne, is it okay if we film you, Anne? Is it okay if I film you? Is it okay if I film you? Okay. So Anne likes a lot of the fabrics that I don't use in pillows and things, and she saves paper for me, so she knows about my collage practice. So she's very supportive. Thank you, Anne. Yay!
You're welcome.
Yay!
You're most delighted. I didn't see you last week.
Yeah, no, I came around, but you had too many people.
I done this happen.
Okay, so listen, I gotta fly because we only have a little bit of time. All right.
No worries.
So all right.
I had
So
something else, but
don't
I
worry. Well,
didn't
next
see
week,
it.
yeah.
I did.
Okay, knuckle punch. Here we go.
I had some china. I had some.
Oh yeah, we'll
china.
do that. Yeah, next week. Yeah.
Okay.
I have something else for you too. I learned something very important about finding things. This is fundamentally where artists live. Marcel Duchamp was walking through the streets of Paris, and he looked into a shop, a chocolate shop. And in the chocolate shop was this grinder that ground chocolate. It had 3 cylinders, and he loved it. He thought it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. So he went in and he bought it. And it was one of his first ready-mades. He included it in his very large work called The Large Glass. And he saw it as something to do with amorous feelings, the churning and sensuality of love. And to me, I agree with Marcel Duchamp. That's something that's not a painting, that's not a sculpture, that's not like aesthetic, can be aesthetic. And this Sunday market is purely that. And if you look, you may see. And if you see, you may just find something. And that's what it happens every week. I love it. I wish every day, like I said before, was Sunday market day. When I do these, I think it has to do with the way songwriting works. You know,
Kanye West, when he was very young, his mother, when he was in high school, gave him an 808 drum machine that allowed him to make beats and record beats. Whatever it is. So he could make these beats. And then he started hanging around with rappers. They had the lyrics. Your mother this and whatever that and everything else. Whatever they wanted to say about their lives in the context of what's happening, great. They had the words, but they didn't have the beat. So for me, the collage is the beat. The line is the lyric. Together, they make the song. Together, they tell the narrative about life and its experiences.
Tell me, David, the sketches you have, excuse me, on that wall, the back wall there.
Yes.
Are they all sort of the start of what would be a finished work?
Yeah. If you see the black dots,
Yes.
I have felt that they make sense with something that I understand emotionally. So I've done a number, like I did this one twice, it's arm wrestling. I've done this one in bed once. So I sometimes come in here and I say, gosh, how am I feeling? What makes sense with how I'm feeling? So this is a library of human activity. I've done 4,000 little thumbnail sketches, the best stuff I could find out of my sketchbooks, starting from 2002 all the way to 2022. This constitutes 20 years of sketchbooks, nearly done. And then I haven't even drawn the stuff I drew in New York City. So this, if I'm turning 60 in September of 22. I was born in September of 62. If I make it to 2052, is that right? I'll be 90.
Yeah.
I'll be 90. So I have 30 years to do a crap load of these. And I believe that in the future, when this media stuff goes away, this is perhaps some type of high modernism or high postmodernism in which the medium is the message. This is, I used what I had to hand, much like a folk artist, much like a Neolithic artist who's using clay and flint and reeds from the bank of the sea. So in this instance, you can see Klimt. You can see Klimt in the hand. In the hand, there is something about the tenderness of Klimt that needed to be in this. Originally, when I started this image, I was going to do it dark, like up there. But then I decided to do it this way. So I was thinking that I was going to do something plaintive about how hard it is to raise children. But I decided to use that watercolor on the same theme as the basis for this because it's back to what I said. The world is shite, but life itself is gorgeous. And that's probably why people think that Klimt is really extraordinary, because he is saying that life is gorgeous. And so I tried to get at some of that. This color here was in the darkness. This came from some of the darkness. This was from some of the darkness. And then I changed up the color. So the artwork is unashamedly emotional. Unashamedly. So about these sketchbooks, if I could.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So if you looked here, that's January of 2016. Going all the way to December 16 and then January to April. So that's about a year and a quarter, right? A year and a third. Then into
And how many leaves in each book?
between 100 and 60. 100 or 60.
Or 60, yes.
Yeah, mostly they're 100. The smaller black shiny ones have less. And those come from, these come from Art and Hobby. These would come from Eason's. No, Evans's. Evans's
Okay.
has these. So I prefer these, but it's just been happening that it's better access over the pandemic that I had access to.
And how many years would you have of,
Yeah,
of these?
I started this process in 82, 83.
Yeah.
Before that, I would have had these ring binders. And in here,
I would have drawings of that rabbit and other things, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so I used these, and then I found them getting stuck in my knapsack, and they were annoying, you know. So in 82, 83, I started it, and I only started kind of collaging at 83, 84, and then there's collages through this whole thing. So some curator in the 27th century is going to freak out, because all this stuff, if you look here, January of 2008, it's got a record of what I was thinking about and what was in the press. And there's Warhol, and there's a hat and a hand, there's Ali, and it all that energy kind of went into this idea that this scallywag is throwing water on that woman unfairly. That's just not right. I mean, there's one that I quite like, you know, and nobody home but me, so she can walk the hallways. Yeah, so that's rushing into the sea. Arm wrestling. Barman versus patron championship. Yeah. So
So you've got how many years then in total would you have of your
I would have
books?
300 sketchbooks.
300.
300 sketchbooks. So it'd be maybe more when you count lots of other things. And what ends up happening is I would have, you know,
So
tens and tens of thousands of drawings. Tens of
Well,
thousands.
it'll be between 20 and 30,000.
Well, I'd say more to 30,000 because
30,
there's other
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Sure, of
Yeah.
course.
I mean, if we count each page in a thumbnail sketch, each one is this independent drawing, and there's 4,000 distilled thumbnails in which, there it is, there's my next 30 years. If I can get a crap load of these made
Yeah.
that show how we relate to the world, how experience is our life. It isn't necessarily about saving the world or ruining the world. It is how we live our life, what we choose to do, how we jump on the raft, how we get sun cream. And those are our truths. Is the guy on the diving board looking at the woman jumping too much? Is the woman in the water jealous? Is the guy in the other side, is he looking too much? I mean, is that something to do with Me Too generation and women's empowerment? To stand up and say consent is necessary, stop treating me like an object? Or perhaps if you look at the one on the left, sun cream, then maybe there is what some people describe as yearning. Wouldn't it be nice if we were older and we didn't have to wait so long? He's got it going on. He's got the girl who's going to put sun cream on his back. Surely, the poets would agree, to love and be loved in return. Surely that's what we really want. I mean, money, power, all that stuff, you know what this leads to craziness. You're too busy. You know, you never get to enjoy it. Personally, wouldn't it be great if you could just have a space that's basically the inside of your mind? This is the inside of my mind. I just turned me. Look, this is the inside of my mind. I'm trying to say something about how life is gorgeous. me get rid of the word new. New earth, new baby. The conversation is coming from the work to me and back into the painting. If I didn't believe that, then I might as well be making Hallmark cards. So here we are at Fornox. It's a burial tomb, passage tomb really is what they call it. And its entranceway looks out onto the landscape here, up to what's called Mullateelan Hill. That is Mullateelan Hill, and that on top of that hill would have had a 150-meter henge. When they dug this up in the 1950s and put a cement cap on it, because it never was fully corbelled, they found the skulls of women and children in the entranceway looking directly up at Mullateelan. So this particular spot was a place, this entrance itself was a place of reverence that sent a love line across the landscape. These fossils are just, you know, covered with seaweed sort of stems and the tops of crinoids, and you know, this is basically the ancient seabed, but somehow it ended up here, of course. So this is larger than Newgrange, and if we start here on the
over.
yeah, so these stones are decorated.
If you put it up to the side, you actually get a better view
This
Yeah.
is perfect.
there.
Yeah. So we'll go left to right. We'll go around, you know? And so you can see that these are kind of almost like the shells that we were seeing in the fossils. They might represent water or who knows. But what is interesting is these peck marks, these dashes. You can see each hit mark. They have these rocks and they did the best they could. And this is a remarkable high achievement of Neolithic art, early Neolithic art. Yeah. And I'm just delighted to be in a space like this. Rest, folk, rest. I've been very fortunate between Merkin and Anna Mendieta, who I was one of her few assistants, and others. And they all taught me that it's more about how you feel about the materials than the materials you choose. Any material can work to express something that's about the human experience. And, you know, so I don't necessarily love paint. Lots of people do. I love collage. And I'm an unapologetic collagist over the last 10 years and a closeted one before that. And I think I was holding it in because, you know, paintings, I was evolving paintings from them. But I might as well just say, collage can do things that other things can't. You know, if I could show you, look, I have this collection that was given to me by Anne at the Sunday market. All these little girl cutouts that she had for most of her life. And I've been using them in my collages. They're cut out so carefully, they're lovely. And this here, this piece of paper, just sticking out. Look at that woman's head sticking out there. Isn't that lovely? It just says something. I just love that I have these beautiful objects and I covet them. So when if I covet, other people covet.
Do you find it difficult to sell your work in the sense of being so attached to it?
I probably would never sell this.
Okay.
Yeah, but because I'm the type of person who could make 50 artworks a week, as opposed to some artists who do 24 in a year, that precious once-off way of doing things, it ain't for me. If somebody genuinely feels that the art that they're looking at reflects their life, they're going to try their hardest to get that to be in their life. That's my experience, and I'm finding that the young are yearning for some understanding about how to get their eyeballs off this and get out into the world. But everybody's looking at this, and if everybody's at home looking at this in the eyeballs, they're never going to meet. So I think the 20 to 35-year-olds who've grown up on this look to my work as almost like a guide to love. Margot Banks, who is one of my really good friends, I love her dearly. She's so fantastic. Margot Banks, the artist. She's remarkable. She's just so emotional with her work. She was looking at a little video that I sent out that has 40 or so of these large ink collages. And at the end she says, for me, Dave, what you're doing is you are actually creating a series called Love Stories. And that means a lot to me. You know, when we left the trees as humans and we went out into the landscape and we're chasing after animals, we needed people to be with us so we could chase the tired bison and stab them together and get that food that you couldn't get up in the trees. We are social animals. When COVID came and the pandemic was here, we were falling apart, and some of us, including myself, are still a bit destabilized about not being able to be in relationship with everybody and be chirpy baboons sitting around sharing fruit, you know. I think that my work perfectly sums up yearning for closeness. And if it's what Margot says, they're love stories, thanks, Margot.
I dabbled in art, but it was really because of Dave's encouragement and advice and again generosity. Come out, use the studio, and that I've really started to work a bit more diligently at my art. He's almost like a catalyst. You see all the people who are here that he kind of affects.
Another thing that's inspired me a lot is the discipline to put all them sketchbooks together. I can't remember exactly how many years there are of sketchbooks.
David,
Yeah.
the end of the night,
Yeah.
I went around to talk to some of your buddies, and they're all very complimentary. There wasn't one bad word.
Really? So do you want a marshmallow before you go? I can toast you up a good marshmallow.
No, we'll head on.
You're probably going to head. I'm going to get you some pizzas and stuff.
Yeah.